343 finally unveiled what competitive settings we're going to be looking at with Halo Infinite in the first upcoming HCS season, starting with an event for $250,000 this December in Raleigh, North Carolina. Today, 343 gave us our first look at these settings. I actually haven't watched any of the gameplay yet, but I have read what the settings are, so we'll talk about that as we go through it. We have Bravo, L-Town, who's actually the gameplay that we're watching, and then Andrew Witt's here with us. They're going to be talking over everything. That was the video that we saw today, so let's check it out. I haven't got to watch this yet. First things first, no radar, BR starts. We love that.
Being able to get your hands on this exact game type, but we're going to now see it for the first time from a competitive POV with competitive settings, of course, also with some pro player point of view. So Sal, walk us through the opening here, Strongholds on Recharge.
So this is Strongholds. Obviously, you have to go for the other Strongholds, but we're going for...
So we're listening to L-Town talk right now. This is L-Town's gameplay. L-Town is a retired Halo professional player, if you guys do not know, and he also currently works at 343 with the Competitive Insights team, which is why that he's doing this. So it's a great point of view to listen to and hear about.
And my teammates are mid-map, kind of forcing those two players into me. I get the easy double. I get the triple as well.
Where is it?
And apparently I get the overkill too. Yes, I do.
Wow.
So not a bad start. Complete control. And now
Not a bad start. Not a bad start. Yeah, complete overkill straight off the rip. So yeah, we're watching very high level lobby.
Not bad at all. No. I don't know if any cash was exchanged to allow you to open up with an overkill here on the whole premiere of competitive gameplay, but excited to be able to look at this gameplay here. I think we have a little bit of different scoring mechanics here, which make a big difference in terms of the end game.
Strongholds is returning from Halo 5. Really thought that it did very well in Halo 5 and it was well regarded by the competitive community. So we want to iterate on it in meaningful ways. And one of those meaningful ways is how to contest and how scoring works. In Strongholds, when you own two zones, you begin scoring. And now if the enemy team captures any progress towards one of your zones, it stops your scoring run. So that way, you need to maintain absolute control over all of your captured zones to continue scoring.
So that's interesting. So just a couple things to tap on there. One, they said that Strongholds is going to be making a return as it was well received by the Halo 5 competitive community. You know, I don't know who, I can only speak on my own behalf, but as somebody who enjoyed Halo 5 competitive, I thought Strongholds was a good game type. So a big difference here is, for one, Strongholds in Halo 5 would work similar to Domination and COD, where you'd get points every couple of seconds. I think there was every 5 seconds you would score based on the amount of control that you had. If you had triple cap, you'd score more. If you had two cap, you'd be scoring the regular amount. You couldn't score if you didn't have at least two zones. But what they're saying here is if it's contested, like this C zone's contested, then apparently, you know, this is as good as not capped for anybody. It's a neutral zone, so to speak. It would be as simple as getting a touch to reset for the blue team, but they won't be getting any points for it, which is kind of interesting. So also, you score a lot faster in this version of Strongholds. They're probably going to elaborate on that, but it doesn't quite work. The scoring system's a little different, but the general theme of having 3 zones to control is the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great change, and anyone who played a lot of Halo 5 or watched a lot of Halo 5 Strongholds will remember scenarios where they had all the pieces in place to maybe get a perfect comeback, and even though they were halfway through the cap on that Stronghold, they needed, as you called it, like the drip time allowed the other team to win, and it felt a little bit anticlimactic. So I think a lot of people have already seen in the Halo Infinite flights the ability to stop everything on the dime and come back.
Okay, so I think what they're kind of getting at is like in a really intense moment where you could potentially flip a capture to, like, you know, save a photo finish game timing. Maybe if we can get this cap just in time, but then, you know, you could be in the midst of capping something, trying to save the day, and then the game ends just because it takes too long to cap. So I kind of see what they're saying. Like, the moment you get in it, it starts being contested and is no longer just a free cap for anybody.
Pretty fantastic to see.
Kind of like that.
We'll talk about
we'll have to see how it plays, you know? I don't know.
Already seeing you kind of use that equipment and make sure that you're using Grapple to be everywhere you need to be on the map right now.
Yep, just making sure I'm getting resets and Strongholds and helping my team by getting those quick flanks and quick routes.
Another thing we should talk about, of course, is such a big piece of this that we're going to see is just the fact that we have motion tracker disabled and how that impacts moment-to-moment gameplay throughout the entirety of competitive play. You're going to see a lot of examples of that, of course, in this game, but we should talk, guys. Andrew, I'll start with you just about the decision there and just how much that impacts the gameplay.
Yeah, we really wanted the game to be as competitive as possible, working with Competitive Insights team to kind of make sure we measure up in that regard.
I don't want to overtalk Andrew here because he might end up saying something similar that I'm about to say right now, but I kind of want to go out and get ahead. I think a lot of people are going to say, like, it's a good thing they put... We don't have a radar, and I think that's a good thing. And I think a lot of people have a really easy thing to be like, of course no radar is good. Like, radar is objectively bad. I don't think that's actually true. The latest version of Halo 5's competitive settings featured a radar, it's the HCS radar, and it was actually really good. It actually punished players for trying to use their abilities too much. made you be a little bit smarter with the advanced movement that you actually had. Sometimes it's a good thing, is all I'm saying. It could end up being a good thing in this game. If we need it, we might not need it. We don't know. That's just my opinions going in. No radar, I think, is a good thing. But there's some potential that maybe we would want a radar that would only show you if you were sprinting or using equipment, kind of like in Halo 5. But who knows? We'll see. I don't think we will. I don't think the movement speed is that crazy in this game.
And part of the things, one of the things we wanted to kind of focus on was awareness, right? Awareness and communication being really pivotal to which is the better team that wins. So that's why we pursued that direction, and you'll see a lot of the outcomes here in terms of how that rolls.
Yeah, absolutely. Sal, you put it best when we were talking earlier, just before we started recording. Just talking about information earned and the fact that
given versus earned.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Just how important that is.
Yeah, so we wanted players to actually have to go out of their way and get info themselves versus like an indicator or
Beamed.
UI telling you where players are and how weak they are. So it's just more awareness and more skills and more thought process on this.
Yeah, absolutely. As we take a look here, about 70 to 56, still a pretty close game here. As you're going to go ahead and get another reset here, but you guys are doing pretty well in terms of just ability to continually rotate and collapse on the opponent as well.
Yep, just using some good comms here, collapsing on strongholds together, and nice bait and switching going on right here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, yeah, they're talking about it, but we're watching pro gameplay, and you can kind of see, you're seeing a lot of, like, I think, just really strong Halo gameplay. A lot of things are going well with it. I mean, look at the numbers game right here. They just got a pick, and then is this guy already dead?
So.
Yeah, he's about to die. So they had a 3v2. They ended up getting a trade there.
We can talk about it too,
looks like Assault was able to get a trade, but what I'm saying is, like, we're watching really high quality Halo, which is good. I think these settings actually so far are showing themselves to be pretty solid. I like the BR starts. A lot of people thought that the battle rifle was like really easy. And Halo Infinite, like, I don't think it is. I think it feels easier than a lot of other weapons because when you're using it for what it's supposed to be, which is kind of like a mid-range weapon, it does its job really well. So it feels kind of easy. That's what it's supposed to do. I think when 8 players on the map are all starting with it and we're all sweaty strafing at each other, I think it should be pretty good. We'll have to see, really. Obviously, we won't know, but it looks pretty good to me. And I'm thinking that, like, we're seeing the foundations for a game with a high skill gap here. Team play is always going to be really important. Stacking with your teammates and trying to help each other, like, those fights are going to be easier just because they have numbers. But
back Hydro, you're going to be able to pick up.
I think we're seeing some stuff with the equipment as well, like
some of the equipment balance.
Yep.
chances
So
for
right
big,
here, I
like,
pair
individual skill gap.
Pulsar and sword
Ooh, look at that! See,
to get some
See what I'm talking about?
shortcuts here, and
Right.
That guy had
they're talking
no
about
idea.
it in real
So
time
that
too.
movement
Like, yeah, I don't know. They're talking about it in real time too. I just
mixed in with
it's good stuff.
Motion tracker. This allows you to make crazy plays like that, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many pieces to talk about there. Just the fact
They're
that
literally talking about it right now, yeah.
From bottom middle.
Lack of
all the
radar
way
allows
up
some
to
really
top
creative
eight,
plays
like that
there.
with the sword. Like you said, if someone
So what I'm pointing out is, like, there's potential. We don't know yet, but there's potential that all these equipment gimmicks and everything without radar could be broken and kind of bad. But we won't know that until we really get to play the game. And that's why, like, I think, no radar in Halo 5's competitive settings, no radar wouldn't work well. And there's a reason why we have a radar. So the presence of a radar isn't inherently a bad thing, and I don't think we need it right now, but there's a possibility with some of the stuff that we can do in this game. The sandbox will allow some crazy stuff.
is watching motion tracker in a competitive setting, they're going to be watching that doorway. That play doesn't really happen in those settings, so it's pretty fantastic to see. And by the way, everyone's just running away from you with their heads down at this point in the game as you're racking up even more kills. But that brings us perfectly, actually, to a camo pickup. And the first thing we'll talk about here is just the new mechanic, Andrew. Of course, people have seen it, but it's worth talking to you as lead designer on the decision there, of course, in conjunction with the sandbox team to make sure that the camo is actually pocketable and you can determine when you want to activate it.
Yeah, the Sandbox team did an awesome job working on the power equipment in this game, and so being able to pocket power equipment and it taking the spot of other equipment really brings more agency in terms of how you want to use these items to your advantage, right? And also hard decision making. Halo's always about making a million decisions, like having a million decisions to do in a given second, right? And what's the best one? And this kind of adds to that, right? Is do I swap grapple shot for overshield? And do I use it now and then pick the grapple shot back up? What do I do? What is my combinatory effects based on what my current inventory is?
So a couple quick observations. One, the clock actually appears to be counting upwards as the game progresses. You can see 53, 54, yeah, I'm not really sure. Kind of interesting it's the time elapsed rather than a countdown. So far, I haven't seen too many issues about the pocketable power-ups, but on paper, I still just really don't love this idea. I kind of like the instant activation of it. To me, a power-up is always going to be an advantage. That's kind of the point. So having it, activated at your convenience seems a little extra broken to me. But, you know, I guess we'll have to see. You know, it's really too early to tell.
Test with me. These are the kind of questions we asked of ourselves, and ultimately what you see here today is the fruit of those labors, right? And make sure that we test that hypothesis and it worked.
Hey man, I see them testing the hypothesis, I see the fruits of their labor, and I respect it because ultimately I think, you know, try something new. We can always go back. If it's not, like, if it doesn't work out,
just, you know, the
try something new.
Equipment on its own in the history of competitive Halo has been kind of a, you know, a term that has had an ebb and flow over the years of how does equipment fit or not fit into competitive Halo. So to see how much it's not only being accepted, but I would even say embraced with things like clips on Twitter, Twitch, etc., has been pretty amazing. I'd love to talk about that quickly, just kind of the all-up philosophy of how you found this sweet spot balance with the equipment that's in the game that gives players so much creativity.
We wanted to make sure that the equipment added to the skill of the game, right? That's the skill gap and then the skill ceiling. So the combinatory effects of, like we saw before with Sal, with the repulsor as well as the energy sword, right? Like the ability to traverse the map the way he did adds that skill, both for newcomer players and also pro players like themselves. Like the experimentation, the expression was really important for us in development in terms of adding these things in and them fitting in with everything else in the sandbox.
Let's see them try to take it from us.
Sure, here's another camo.
So one thing I got to point out straight away, I think another big concern that a lot of people have with watching battle rifle gameplay or thinking about if the battle rifle were the starting weapon, it would add too much of a range dynamic and encourage players to sit back for too long. We're obviously watching a very high level lobby, which is great. It's great example footage. It's something we can expect when we're watching pro tournaments. You know, there's an objective on the map, which is incentivizing players to not stand still and stick back and just try to, like, you know, chip away at each other long range, because that'd be boring. And I think that, you know, we're not seeing that too much, and that's nice. There's a lot of rifle presence, obviously. That's the way it should be with competitive, but we're not seeing a bunch of campy gameplay where people are trying to just sit back and, you know, just use their long range weapons. People are still trying to, like, push objectives and move around on the map. Obviously this is a high level lobby, but that's again what we can expect to see when it's time to watch the pro matches, like, for the big money. So, you know, this is good stuff. I think it's looking pretty good to me.
Camo pickup. Sal, you guys have really been on top of that camo and activated immediately. And probably the most interesting thing to talk about there, right, is the lack of grenade hit markers that player would have had in that situation.
Yep, exactly. So that player actually had no idea how much damage he was actually doing or if he was even hitting me.
Yeah.
But see, and I know that they're just saying this because they're just saying this. They're saying this to the general audience of Halo, but of course they do know how weak they are. But of course, like, if you're actually playing, like, people that play regularly, competitive, like, of course they know how weak they are. That's exactly why you don't need grenade hit markers, because we don't need that extra information. All that does is promotes gameplay where, you know, if I think somebody is right behind here, you know, I can pop a nade to bounce it right inside the turbine there and get the damage. I can be listening for him to, you know, make a sound. I'll know that there's an audio cue if my grenade hits the guy. I don't need the visual cue of the hit marker. And if I was just kind of nade checking, like if I had a confidence of thinking he was turbine, then I'm probably going to get the nade. But if I didn't know he was there and I'm just nade checking stuff, then yeah, it's going to make it a lot harder. And that's the way it should be. You shouldn't be able to just sit back and start lobbing nades through every doorway that you see on the map until you start to get nade hit markers and nade information. That just promotes really boring, slow gameplay, and it's obviously a lot less skill-based than having to make a push based off of, you know, intuition or instinct. Or, you know, it could be full knowledge. You could know he's jammed in the corner and just popped camo, like, let's pop nades down there, he's gonna die. Like, we know that. Certainly, certain situations, you don't need it, and that's exactly the best part about it. Nade hit markers overall don't really add anything positive to the game when it comes to competitive, and I'm really glad to see that they're disabling that for comp settings. Like, that's great work.
To make sure that I was weak and get the kill on me, my play right there was to make him waste as much time as possible and to put him in a spot where my teammates could get the cleanup trade on him.
Absolutely, and that's a situation that plays out completely differently with both motion tracker and grenade hit markers on. Also forces that player to even spend those grenades, right? So it really changes the way that plays out. It allows you to have so much more power as a player there. You're burning camo, you're spending that player's grenades, and you're also taking that player out of the situation. There's probably at least going to be a trade there, and it really changes the way that all that plays out.
If you guys don't know who Bravo is, I don't know how I can educate you at this point, but this man's, he obviously knows what he's talking about. He's a Halo genius, and he's spot on. I would totally agree with him. He's absolutely right. It adds benefits to both players in this situation. When you are even probably going to die and you're going to burn camo and you're stuck in that corner bottom middle and you're taking grenades, you know, with the enemy having to push you and getting less information off that, the enemy has a different play when they know that their first nade had a heavy hit marker, made you completely one shot. You know, that play changes. If he has you on his radar, he knows exactly where you are. That play changes. He might not have to prioritize you the exact same way he does when he doesn't have that extra information. Sure, he popped an 8 and thinks he hit you. So he thinks you're weak, and he knows you're in that corner, and he thinks you're going to stay in that corner, but he doesn't know those two things. And he can know both of those things if we have nade hit markers and radar. So it adds power to the player who is the camo player. Even if they're going to end up dying, they're taking more attention from the enemy because they have the freedom to maybe make a play out of there. Well, what if he didn't stay right in that corner? He wouldn't have a radar to tell him if he did. So, you know, it's all good stuff. Bravo obviously just hit the nail on the head. I think it's all a positive for the game for sure.
Absolutely. Another thing I'd love to talk about here as we see more continuous control from Sal and Team Andrew is also just the dynamic between, of course, we've got the BR utility weapon that so many players will be excited to see, but we're also seeing Sal use a lot of Mangler. We're seeing some Commando.
Mangler looks
how you guys
sick.
really thought about the dynamic?
Just got to say real quick, I used the Mangler very briefly during some of the flights and custom games. It is a 3-shot kill. If the 3rd shot is to the head, you can achieve a perfect kill with it. It's also a projectile weapon, so it's really nice. It's like this nice beefy feeling handgun. With a not super fast time to kill, like a totally good one. I don't know, I'm really excited to use that gun more, and I'm glad to see that it's in competitive play.
Between this utility weapon is really important, and it is such a core part of the gameplay. However, the weapons on the battlefield are also a big piece as well.
Yeah, I think the Sandbox team did a really excellent job of making sure that all the weapons have a specific role in the game. The battle rifle being the utility weapon.
See, you can
is
see him
really
using it right
important
there.
being,
That's the like rate of fire on it. It doesn't
velocity
shoot super
spawn, rather
fast,
than
but it's a
having to
3-shot
direct
kill.
spawn. But we didn't want to have scavenging is so important to the game, right? And so we wanted to keep on having them scavenge the battlefield. How we did that was we took away that secondary weapon slot and have it be free, so it's only the battle rifle off of spawn. And so optimizers will want to fill their inventory, fill their pockets in order to be able to be as effective as they possibly can in a match. So going with that scavenging story of the map being very curated with very specific items and toys in the map, and you know, filling up their inventory is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. We see another camo grab here from Sal as well.
This time,
So a quick thing to note too, looking at the score here, it's 137 to 211. I think the score is a 250 to win rather than to 100 like you'd see in Halo 5. Because again, the scoring works a little bit differently. But with this progress bar being highlighted, yeah, I think 250 is about what we're looking at. I don't think it's quite going to go to 300, but I don't remember what the thing was from the flight.
time I live.
Nice job there. Going to be able to get away and also, you know, of course, be able to go away now with a grapple camo Mangler, which is a pretty sweet setup as well.
Pretty ideal. See what I do with it.
Let's go ahead and see. And at this point, of course, it's right now 216 to 137. One thing worth talking about with that new scoring mechanic, Sal, is, one sec. We got a contested stronghold here. Let's see how you play this one out. Okay, well done. Takes down the first player. I'm going to go ahead and finish that cap. Or almost finish it, but instead go ahead and up. Nice grapple
Ooh.
out.
Oh, he's not going to live. I like that
One
play,
thing to
though.
talk about, though, at this point, because
I mean, obviously, again, we're watching, you know, a high-level lobby with high-level players, but that was a really, I liked that. That was a really big, modern problems require modern solutions, you know. He finds himself, let's see, he's got camos. Camo's running out. Okay. Where does he go here? Somebody's behind him shooting him. He was running from that camo. You see somebody in front of him. I like, this is just a great instant solution.
instead go ahead and up.
Doesn't work
grapple
out
out.
because this guy top blue catwalk ends up coming and kill him.
Yeah,
Which is a good trade on their end.
one thing we should
But
talk
they get
about,
that
though,
trade
at this
too.
point-
See, you know, it ends up coming through. They get that trade. It's good stuff. Good
Even
stuff
though
all
there's
around.
quite
Just,
a gap, quite
I
a
like
delta
seeing that
between
play
the
there. You know,
scores
this is good
in
stuff.
the game. You really can't take your foot off the gas, whereas in Halo 5 you might be a little more comfortable because you know you have, as long as you have control with X amount of time left, you're probably going to win the game. But with the ability to stop everything, like we said earlier, immediately while just stepping into a stronghold, that kind of changes the way that competitive teams will play the late game with strongholds.
Especially with the new rule set where you could contest and stop the pausing for a little bit. Like, you can't let your foot off the gas. You got to try to close out the game here. So just making sure we keep up the comms and the teamwork.
Yeah, absolutely, and you've done it so well here as well. And take a look at this play as well, as you're going to go ahead and grapple him.
Unlucky.
Unlucky indeed, but it's just worth noting the fact that you do have kind of that creativity.
I mean, it's
right?
unlucky. Kind of got shit on,
never
but
has there
that's
been in
competitive Halo.
a-
That's the best part
a
about
moment
competitive
like that
Halo.
where you could fly out of a door.
You can totally get shit on. Which is a good example of the skill gap present in the game.
Just set up a play like that, so it's pretty special to see, and the fact that it is balanced the way that it is, right? I'm sure
The
was quite
shock
challenging
rifle is present
for-
here.
for a long time, I'm sure.
as a power weapon. That was obviously
we tested a lot.
that was the gun he just flipped a kill with a second ago, but it looks like this is a gun that we might potentially see in this game type. So interesting.
Different things, a lot of different settings, but we wanted to make sure that the things that the grapple and really all the equipment had that expression element, right? The things that are powering all those clips that you're seeing on the internet, we're seeing that, we're all gleefully seeing on the internet. We want to make sure that it's important for expression with equipment. I want to do this, I want to do this and this. I want to repulse somebody and then follow up with that mangler melee or things that I want to put somebody into a wall and knock them off the map. Expression is just paramount for some of the designs we've done in this game.
Certainly, I've seen some expression in the forms of being repulsed off the back of Silo there by the hammer many times in matchmaking. I've also been on the receiving end of overshield grappling hammer players on Behemoth, so I've definitely seen different forms of that expression getting the better of me.
Yeah, so you can see that the Mangler is a one-shot melee, though. That seems pretty strong. He wasn't able to execute that clean on the first kill there. He ends up getting the double kill, but he tried to make that same play for the double kill. Just a quick one-shot melee, which is, not a bad thing, but it doesn't seem like that gun, when I used it, it didn't seem like it was hard enough to justify that being the case. With a sniper being a shot melee, like that works fine because it's a sniper, but this gun, it's a precision weapon. Having a one-shot precision weapon, imagine only having to land one shot with your Halo 3 battle rifle or your Halo 5 Magnum before you can melee somebody. Like that seems like a bit much. Obviously, it's not your starting weapon. You have to pick it up, but I don't know. That seems a little strong to me. We'll have to see.
Throughout these weekends, as we take a look at these last few seconds here, Sal, closing it out, I think we're going to see in just a moment, you guys close this out. Yes, some celebratory needler shots to end the game. What better way to finish?
So it is 250.
Well. 250 to 170 is our final score there. Sal, you guys ended out on top. A pretty strong performance, I'm not going to lie.
Appreciate it.
We'll go ahead and take a look.
So that looked pretty good to me. There's one thing I'd like to go back. I mean, you pretty much heard me talk about everything that I liked and disliked throughout, and I think that might have had any hesitation, but
kind of forcing those two players into
one thing I want to take a look at real quick.
I get the triple as well.
Are the upgraded medals we can see here currently that are showing up in this clip?
Yes, I do.
Right here. Like this looks nicer. They've already done a little bit of tweaking, I think, in some of the more recent builds, based on some of the feedback that they received from the flights. And I think this is a draft of one of the things that they shared, showing that they were kind of leaning towards a design a little bit more in this direction. Still pretty similar to what we've already seen, but it does look like an improvement. So looks like the more recent builds of the game are still looking better. Hopefully that'll continue to be the case. On paper, I think these competitive settings look really good. What do you guys think? Do you think they look great? Do you think they look terrible? I don't know. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already. Catch you guys in the next one.